Is it face-to-face games?
We are live for the First Strike podcast. This is your host, KYT, and we are sponsored by face-to-facegames.com. Check out their website because we've started this a few weeks ago, but we have a big weekly sale now, and this time is your best chance to get all those Kaladesh singles before they're out of standard. 15% off, and that's why we're doing a special on them. But if there's specific ones that you've been waiting to get on, just to either play with them this weekend or post-rotation, you need them for Modern, it's a good time to acquire some of those cards. So definitely go to facegames.com. We got Dan back on the show because early we had Edgar back on the show due to his run goods. And this time, Dan, we talked to him about SCG, how he may or may not play SCG. Syracuse make the trip there. Edgar said he might go down. And, Dan felt really, really good about his deck last week. How did you end up doing, Dan?
I made the top 8. It went pretty swimmingly, I would say, up until the last match there.
You just talked about needing to move last week. Did you finally make your move, or you're just moving into another room, another kick-ass backdrop to show off?
So I'm moving over the course of this week. I got my new place on Tuesday, but you asked me to do the podcast, and I don't really have an apartment to cast from. It's all boxes and everything's put up. So I'm actually at the office right now. I've stayed the night at work. It's just, I guess, my extreme dedication to my craft.
It looks really nice.
It's beautiful.
Got to say hi to Andy. Missed you last week. How's it going, my man?
Oh, it's just fantastic. The best day of my life.
All right. I love to hear that. I love to hear that enthusiasm. And Derek, how's it going?
Oh, things are good. Things are also good. Yeah.
Fantastic. We talked about your list, and Edgar had sort of mini interviewed you and asked you about your specific card choices. Did any of them? Did you make any specific ones that we had talked about?
Yeah, I think Edgar. There was a couple people on. I want to say the Thursday or the Friday leading up to the event who had spoken about hieroglyphic elimination in blue-white. I hadn't put any games in. Actually, Andy was one of the folks who reached out to me looking for my opinion on that card. I hadn't played any games with it. Wasn't really familiar with the swap, but it's not too different in terms of what it does to your overall game plan to something like Opt. So I thought it would be an easy swap to just try out and look into. I still maintain that it's not exactly the axis that you want to be fighting on with this current iteration of the deck, based on the construction of the sweepers that you're trying to take advantage of Terminus. You just really want to maximize your chances of getting that. It was okay. Didn't overperform, didn't really underperform. It just sort of was. Granted, I only played one copy, so not a whole lot of feedback to provide on that front. But I did make a few card switches here and there. Brought up Vendilion Click out of the board, put it in the main, swapped a Rest in Peace for a Surgical Extraction, just things that I was sort of toying around with in my head the last week or so. All that being said, in hindsight, I wish I didn't change a card. maybe keep the Vendilion Click in the main deck as it was, but I wish I had access to that other Rest in Peace. I wish I had access to that other Opt.
I'm looking at your list here. So people playing their next Modern event should revert back to your old list, is what you're saying.
Honestly, if you're going to make the one change, I think it should just be the Rest in Peace. I like having the hammers come in after board in the matchups where you need them. I think that's really one of blue-white's strengths. It does have the ability to just drop a hammer like Stony Silence, drop a hammer like a Baneslayer Angel, drop a hammer like a Rest in Peace. That's really the appeal of playing a deck like this to me. Other than taking advantage of the fact that you get to play Jace and Teferi, which are just not reasonable Magic cards. Just having tools like hieroglyphic elimination in the mirror, or in the the Thoughtese matchups, or having access to surgical extraction against Storm or against Dredge. They're just not as effective as the other possible card choices. And given the construction of the deck, how it is right now, maximizing on terminuses, I just prefer the previous iteration of what I was playing. It's not bad, just wasn't as strong. Didn't have the same sort of hammer as the other iteration. Granted, again, we're only talking about 1 or 2 card choices here, so it's not going to make or break your tournament. Probably not, but
you talk about Jace and Teferi. I'm sure every time I mention Jace, my sculptor, I can see a smile in Derek. In the top 32, there are only 2, I think, from my quick scan, 2 decks that play Jason Mind Sculptor, yourself, and a Blue Moon deck. So it's not you're representing the Jace flag, my man.
Yeah, maybe I'm completely out to lunch, but every single time I cast them, every single time I activate them, I don't feel like the games are even, they're not even close. Yeah, again, maybe I know nothing. Maybe maybe people are doing some smarter things out there than I am, and I'm just catching the right wind and getting lucky. But it just seems entirely unreasonable to me that they let you play with these cards and people aren't taking every opportunity to take advantage of things.
Derek, you should try. You should pick up this deck, the main Jace deck in the format.
I am not smart enough to play a control deck. Somebody will put a non-creature spell in front of my face, and I'll go negate, and then they'll play a better non-creature spell, and I'll be like, how did I get hooked like this? I'm the control player. It just happens, or I'll like Jace lock myself on turn 4 somehow. I don't know. I'll stick to humans where I can attack with creatures.
That is another thing that maybe I'll pause it. Like, I haven't actually done the research, so I could be completely wrong on this front. But this is not a fast deck like humans, like Burn, like Living End, whatever else you can play in Modern. I think it's entirely reasonable to assume that a lot of the blue-white players or Jeskai players over the course of the tournament took a lot of draws, because you do need to play really, really fast. And I mean, when you're playing fast, you're not making technically well-informed decisions 100% of the time either. I certainly caught myself with that, especially as the tournament went long and I was getting a little drained, making really poor decisions quickly that could backfire. Obviously they worked out well for me, but sometimes you have to play at lightning speed just to avoid that draw. And that could very well be what happened to at least a number of the other pilots that were playing these, because I do know that there were other people in the later rounds playing Jace strategies.
So how did your tournament go? Yeah, I have a couple of draws. what about you? I'm in top 8. Wow. You must be fast. You must be fast. It sounded like you said the tournament was super smooth until the last match. Were you undefeated heading into top 8?
No, so I mean, I took 1 loss on day 1, and then my first 2 rounds of day 2, I took a loss as well. What I meant specifically was in the top 8 against my match with Living End. He just walked over me. Like, it wasn't even particularly close. My draws were pretty slow, and I stumbled on mana, and he essentially killed me on turn 3 both games. He just, killed my land, and then resolved a Living End for 2 or 3 creatures, and I couldn't do anything. I just died, and it was pretty embarrassing. Most people that were talking to me at that point were giving me, I mean, they were congratulating me on the top 8, saying, you have a great matchup in the corners. Like Living End is not necessarily a buy, but like Blue White's really well positioned, really favored. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, I haven't played this matchup, but like I can sort of see the writing on the wall for how I'm going to lose this. And sure enough, like, it just happened,
What did you lose to in day 1 and day 2 then?
I lost to Burn on day 1. I'm pretty confident that I punted that matchup. I did a pretty poor job playing around Eidolon and Revel, but I could have done better and probably would have won. And then day 2, I lost to Storm. I stumbled a little bit out of the gate on game 3, and he just straight up punished me for doing so. Probably, I would say a well-deserved loss, just on the basis that I think that that's a really poor matchup for blue white, or one that could certainly be better. It's one that I would not want to face. And then I lost to humans the very next round, so that would have been the second round of day 2. Again, not particularly close. I stumbled on mana both games. Really wasn't able to do anything that the deck is built to do, and he just walked over me with ease. It's pretty embarrassing. But yeah, I mean, the matches that went well, they went really well, and there were a few that were real sweats, including a couple control mirrors. Against people who are familiar with the First Strike podcast, people that tuned in last week, and they had asked me ahead of the match, so like, hey, were you on First Strike? I was like, maybe I was. Let's pretend that you don't know what I'm playing. But overall, they were fun matches. They were good, and I enjoyed myself.
Are you that guy with the nice? Wasn't it a painting on the wall?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, nice posters. They're taken down now. Thanks for reminding me that I'm moving out and everything's in boxes.
Really nice stuff. Andy, do you have any questions for Dan for the blue-white archetype?
I don't think I have any questions. I asked him about the hieroglyphic illumination, and I personally really like it, but we played almost the exact same lists. Like, the list I'm playing is like identical to yours, except the the 2 Serum Visions are also 2 more hieroglyphics, and then my sideboard's like one card different. Like, I wanted Surgical so that I could beat Tron by Field of Ruin Surgical, was sort of my logic for having Surgical, but I could be swayed back to Rest in Peace to just kind of give up, because I think that matchup's just awful.
I'll be honest, like, in 2 tournaments now, like over 30 rounds, I've never played against Tron. Maybe I'm lucky. Who knows? A hieroglyph. I'll challenge the Serum Visions thing. If you track all my results over the 3 weeks, I think 90% of the matchups that I've lost are because I've stumbled on the early turns, stumbled on my mana, and I think Serum Visions is easily the best card that you could have to transition from the early to the late game, and it helps smooth out your draws. That's a card that I was considering cutting to try out the hieroglyphic, basically on your advice, because you had told me as much that you had cut the Serum Visions. I must have spent half an hour just thinking about what that would do to some of my games, and I just couldn't bring myself to cut the Serum Visions for that reason. Again, as the deck is currently constructed, I do believe that having some quantity of Serum Visions gives you the ability to, again, transition from early to late and make sure that your draws are smoothed out. Yeah, I mean, hieroglyphics, it's not bad, but I was beating up on people in the mirror all tournament who were using it for the sheer reason that, like, I don't think that the mirror is won by small incremental amounts of card advantage. I think that they're won by having Planeswalker dominance on the board. There were multiple occasions too, in fact, where my opponent would tap out end of turn to cast Hieroglyphic Illumination, and I would just counter it with a Cryptic Command and then bounce their Jace or Teferi, and then immediately take over the board because I now have the Planeswalker, in play, and theirs is back in their hand, and they have to or they have to fight at sorcery speed. So, honestly, to me, it was like a way to take advantage of tight games, because my plan after board is just bring in Dispel and fight from a mana efficiency standpoint, whereas they're bringing in Baneslayer Angels and maybe another couple copies of Negate, and are just trying to fight me on like card advantage and card quality. And I fundamentally believe that that's where the advantages are gained in the mirror, is like just getting in early and fighting with more efficient spells. And I don't see Hieroglyphic Illumination as one of those spells.
Yeah, I've seen some people on Twitter were talking about how blue-white's not like a typical control deck. It's more of a prison deck, just trying to set up the Planeswalkers, and then the rest of it takes care of itself.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
All right, thanks.
There's definitely a reality where hieroglyphic, is the optimal spell. And I can certainly envision a future where that's the case. I just think that we're yet to transition to that point. The format has yet to steer in that direction.
All right, I think. Oh, Andy, do you have any modern tournaments coming up?
I hope not.
Jesus.
Why not?
I can't think of any in the near future.
Let's unpack that statement, shall we? Andy, what did you mean by that?
I mean that I don't like to play modern competitively.
Who
Oh,
likes
man.
Who likes playing modern competitively? Come on.
Okay, can I raise two hands here?
You're not allowed to answer this question, right? You seem to
I
be
would
the
have
only
told you
person
that.
that's winning.
It's a conflict of interest.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Moderns, you're on the Moderns payroll.
You and Andre Strosky got something going on. You're quitting Magic and you come and play Modern. You just win everything you play.
It's true. It's the quitting effect. We are whitelisted.
Yeah.
Whitelisted pros.
Come on, man.
Kale was about to quit, and then he won nationals and a GP in like a month.
Yeah, you have to quit and you have to mean it, and then relapse.
You have to really hate Magic.
What is going on? What is going on?
You like it too much, Derek.
It likes me too sometimes. It gives me just enough wins where it's like keep coming back, and I'm like, yeah, this game's great, but I never seem to get there. I guess I just gotta give it up.
He's faking it. He's faking it.
Yeah, I hate Magic. I'm quitting.
Dan, have you had a chance to look at Joel Larson's list? He actually finished in the finals of Stockholm, losing to Strasky's Burn Spirits.
I remember looking it up in the car ride home and thinking to myself that I really liked what he had done with the list. I'm going to look it up right now just for reference sake.
Yeah, I had a question about that. That and his list and Luis Salvato's list. I think Yoles had 2 Ancestral Vision and Salvato.
I was just going to bring that up. I was just going to bring that up. I'm not a huge fan of Ancestral Vision personally. Don't really like it all that much. However, it is a pretty good trump in the mirror. Again, it forces the opponent to act first. I think it is much better than hieroglyphic for the sake that you don't have to actually tap out or use your mana to do anything. It really caters to that mana efficiency that I was speaking to. With that said, I just don't know that there's many other matchups where it's particularly great. On the whole, though, Joel's list looks quite good. I like it. I like that he doesn't lean on wrath effects like others do. I think we talked last week about how, and maybe I'm completely making this up, and how a lot of other blue-white lists lean on like Wrath of God and Supreme Verdict in the main deck. I personally believe and want my sweepers to guaranteed clear the board. Get around recursion effects, get around indestructibility, get around whatever, and Terminus and Stellar Wreckage do just that. Joel seems to agree, and I would be willing to bet that worked out well for him, and that's why he did so well.
It seemed more popular in Stockholm Blue White. We had like Derek mentioned Salvato playing it. We had Ivan Flock playing it, and so we had 4 copies in the top 16 of Stockholm, whereas we had the lone copy represented by Dan in the SCG Syracuse. But for those of you who haven't, who didn't check it out, Andre Strasky ended up winning with Bant Spirits, and that's a deck that is somewhat popular across the board. And what do you think about that deck, Dan?
It's definitely very good. I would actually go on a limb and say it's better than humans, especially in the heads-up match. I think that it's better at fighting humans than humans is at fighting it. So I think it's well positioned. I have played against it a handful of times. I think 3 times over the last couple of weeks. I don't find the match particularly challenging for blue-white. I mean, it's obviously a very good deck and you need to be very careful, but your life total is a resource and you can absolutely take advantage of that. You can go to 1 life with ease and still, win those games. You don't need to worry about, stray burn spells or any law. I mean, Moorland Haunt aside, you don't need to worry about any cards that get recursive value when they're on the board and start accumulating a board position. Geist is tough to beat. He can be a challenge, but Terminus is very good in that matchup. Their cards like Spell Queller don't counter it very well. Well, they don't counter it at all. And it's a very efficient board clear. So it's a good deck. I think I almost feel like it's been designed to prey on blue-white, but I'm not convinced that it does a terrific job of doing so with the aside of them perhaps stealing some games with Geist. But yeah, no, good deck. I would recommend others play it. I think Edgar played it this weekend. I don't know how that well went for him in particular. I'd be curious to hear his thoughts. But good deck, good, not great. I don't know what its other matchups look like aside from blue-white control and humans. But cool combination of cards, and they have nice art.
that's always a plus. Moving to standards, and then Derek has a little bit more experience with. There's a standard PPTQ at the local Montreal face-to-face game store. So what you've been playing, Derek?
I've still just been jamming red-black. I think the format for the past 2 or 3 months has just been pretty straightforward. It was red-black and Esper, some blue-white, and then blue-black started popping up again later in the format. I think red-black is just the best deck. Chain Roller is really, really, really good. And then you have cards like Chandra that are also very good. Rotation is going to be tough, obviously. They lose Beaumont Courier, Chandra, Unlicensed Disintegration, Heart of Kieran, the Cycle Lands. Like, so many things are gone out of red-black. But I think red-white is looking really powerful, especially with the Tajik spoiler today. That card looks really sweet. And although Shock's still in the format, Magna Spray is not. So you can have some more recursive threats. And yeah, I also like Mono Green coming out of the new standard. The new 1-drop that Gabby Sparks spoiled today is it's very powerful. It's the new experiment one, but it also gets trample when you have 3+1/+1 counters. And it's also when creatures die, which is also pretty sweet. So if like you play that card and then you play a Steel Leaf Champion and they kill the Steel Leaf Champion, all of a sudden you have a 3/3. It's just like really cool. It makes the green deck actually not awful. Although the exclusive First Strike podcast card destroys the mono green deck. So you better watch out for that one in white sideboards. Because I think the third deck that's going to show up is the Teferi decks. Teferi is still a very, very, very powerful Magic card. And we do have another disallow-like reprint with Settle the Wreckage still in the format. So I think that like a red-white aggro deck, a mono-green deck, and a blue-white Teferi deck are going to be like the first 3 decks you see popping up. And then some people will shove Assassin's Trophy and poorly built decks for the first couple of weeks.
Wow. Lots of info there in the mind of Derek. Before we ask the other guys about the new cards and new standard, so if people are still having important tournaments this weekend, it's your advice is don't be stupid and play black-red?
Pretty much, yeah. Unless you're really, really comfortable with another deck, just play red-black. I know there was a PTQ on Moto last weekend. I don't know if there's one this weekend. But yeah, if you have any sort of standard event, just play red-black or play an aggro deck. Play the Wizards Lightning Bolt deck if you want. Most people aren't playing standard really competitively right now because the format's pretty dead.
There's still tournaments left, though. There's still tournaments left. And if there was one last week, what took it down?
Red-black took it down. I actually know the guy. He's a European. His name's Carl Serap, I think. He went with red-black.
Well, there you have it.
It's just the best deck.
All right. To move to the new cards, the card that was spoiled by us on the First Strike Twitter was Citywide Bust. double white, one colorless, 3 to cast. Destroy all creatures with toughness 4 or greater. That is quite the narrow condition, and definitely in my opinion, for competitive play, likely sees play in the sideboard and even at that, but I'm not sure. Like, it hits a lot of stuff in mono green, but is it excellent? I mean, what do you think, Andy?
It doesn't hit Vine Mare. If it hit Vine Mare, then maybe it could be a reasonable sideboard card against mono green, and it might be anyway. But the fact that it doesn't hit Vine Mare is just devastating. It's already the hardest card for you to kill.
That's a really strong point.
And it doesn't hit the best card against you.
Yeah.
So that's pretty frightening.
I mean, that's what Settle the Wreckage is for. He's got to cast your citywide bus for your non-Vine Mare and your Settle the Wreckage for your Vine Mares.
I wish it was called Citywide Bus.
It's just a really big bus.
There will definitely be some alters, I guarantee it.
Yeah. Just a really big bus.
It's like a really, really big bus.
Just
or it travels a lot.
Ravnica, city of buses. Each guild.
What's the local transit like?
Yeah, it's a guild painted bus.
Oh God,
that's hilarious.
That was your first. What's your first impression of this card?
Citywide bust? I'd say it is a main deck bust overall. I don't think that it's going to see a whole lot of play off the get-go. If it does, that would be entirely because the green deck is is assuming popularity, which is probably going to be what happens right out of the gates until the format adjusts. But oftentimes when you see wrath effects like this, they have more of a pronounced effect on the way the format shakes out rather than what decks use them. So I would use Languish as an example. That was a 4-mana sorcery black, gives all creatures -4/-4. If I remember correctly, back when that card was standard legal, it didn't see a whole lot of play, but it sort of shaped the way decks were built and what creatures were good. And if I had to use, a past example to sort of carry forward into the new format and what new standard's going to look like, I would imagine that this spell will sort of dictate which creatures are going to start seeing play. And I think Vine Mare is an excellent example. Obviously, it's already seeing play, but that's an excellent example of a creature that dodges an effect like this and thus sees a boost in popularity because of that, because there's fewer ways to answer it.
That's a good summary. We'll move to some of the other cards. Derek highlighted Tajic Legion's Edge, 3 to cast, 1 white, 1 red, 1 colorless, 3/2 haste. As the mentor ability, when this creature attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on target attacking creature with lesser power. Prevent all non-combat damage that would be dealt to other creatures you control. And you can pay red, white. Tajic Legion's Edge gains first strike until end of turn. It has first strike, which we got in that card, but
yeah, that's this podcast name, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's not mana deprived. Stop giving me like destruction spells. I'm tired of getting sinkhole. I'm tired of getting. Okay, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Watsy, I love any preview cards you give me, especially Grimflare. That was the hotness.
I really wish we got the cat as the preview card. Did you see the cat today?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's a good boy. He brought you a present.
A generous stray.
Yeah, that's me.
Man, this Tajic guy has a lot of text. He does a lot of things.
Have you seen Aurelia?
Ooh, Aurelia can be found with the dirty bugs.
She's a big mama. She's good.
Imagine playing Tajic and then Aurelia.
Look at all the words on these things.
Yeah, Aurelia's full of words too. It's like
that's a lot of English.
At its base, it's a 4-mana 4/5 flying vigilance haste.
Yeah, the Boros really like reading. It's all about education.
Yeah, you can do a lot of stuff.
You can give the double striker the +2/+0 and vigilance as well, like the red-white double strike little fella.
Can't be dealt non-combat damage.
Man, good for them. Good for these cards. I'm glad that they have so much text. I bet that's really good. That's all I got.
So Aurelia, for the listeners that don't know, who haven't checked the preview, it's a 4 to cast, 1 white, 1 red, and 2 colorless for 2/5 flying. Also has mentor. Outside of that, she has at the beginning of combat on your turn, choose up to 1 target creature you control until end of turn. That creature gets +2/+0, gains trample if it's red, and gains vigilance if it's white.
Are you done?
Yeah.
That's a lot of text. That's a lot of stuff. This card looks sweet. She gets hit by the bus. But
just like a bus just hits her.
How can you hit an angel with a bus? It doesn't make sense. This is a flavor fail. Somebody call a Morthos person. Come on.
She definitely gets hit by the bus. I would imagine most of the other cards in an Aurelia-based deck, if you can even say such a thing, would not, though. So I don't think that's a real concern. No, she looks really good. If there's a red-white creature deck, I would expect her to be at the forefront of why that is. Looks pretty sweet.
Yeah, we also have like the strange time walk in Boros. You get an extra turn, and I believe all your permanents, no creatures. Hold on. So 1 red-white instant. Creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. Take an extra turn after this one. At the beginning of that turn's end step, you lose.
Yeah, so she doesn't get hit by the bus. You cast the bus, and you cast that card, and you win the game.
What's this card called?
Final. Okay, it's a translate, so I don't know. Okay. It says Final Fortune, so I didn't want to say that.
It's definitely one of those translated cards that didn't port over so well. But
okay, Chance for Glory.
That's its name. Yep.
On Salvation. So three to cast, right? You said 3 to cast instant. So
yeah, 1 red-white.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just like a different Glorious End.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
because like you could like survive a wrath and then take another, like you get the next turn after this one, or you could just time walk and try and kill them in 2 attacks, right? Yeah. Is that how it works?
I can't believe Wizards printed this card.
It's time walk.
It's so good at all these creature-based decks, you know? You just you already have a board position, your opponent's probably already dead to another attack, and you probably die the following turn if they attack you. It's a good thing you have exactly this 3-mana time walk. Could just be like a lightning strike or something. Yeah, card's great.
You're not serious, right?
No.
Okay.
No. Gotcha. Please play this card.
Do a temperature check.
Yeah. No, I think this card's great. I think everybody should play it. 4 in your sideboard.
My brain hurts. I'm actually confused.
He doesn't think it's good, Car Young Tom.
At all? Like even is
I think copy? It might be good. I don't know. Probably not.
Yeah, I think every card needs to it's going to be contextual based on how the format shakes out. There are a whole bunch of different factors that could lead to something like this being very good. I doubt that's going to happen. I significantly doubt that this card will see any play, much like Glorious End.
Yeah, it is much more similar to Glorious End than it looks on its surface, because if you even think about the Wrath thing, that they could Wrath you, and then you'll still survive. You can just end the turn and then get the extra turn essentially after as well. So it's pretty similar in most effects, but maybe this one's good. Maybe the deck's fast enough or swarmy enough, and this is just the kind of reach it needs, but it is doubtful.
I would rather play Boros Guildgate, personally.
I mean, it seems like, well, maybe not across the board, but it seems like they are pushing a lot of beefy creatures at the 4-mana cost slot. We talked about Nohite.
Yeah.
Ferox 6/6. Aurelia is a 4/5 flyer for 4 that has a lot of text on it, so it does other things. Yeah, they're pushing. I'm just curious. I don't know. This might be. You don't think this might be playable down like one copy and some like super hyper aggro Boros deck?
It's just so glorious.
Like it's so yeah. I mean, it is glorious. And it's so like if your opponent isn't trying to wrath your board and they're instead just trying to like pick off your creatures with 1-for-1 removal spells over the course of a couple of turns, this card is just like a mulligan. Like it just literally does nothing.
It also
your opponent needs to be wrapping your board every single turn for this to have any effect.
It's also like really bad against Brass's Contempt, which is probably going to be a 2 to 4 of in the format, and they gain 2 life. So like now you have this 3-mana card that needs a board state, needs you to have them dead, needs them to not have like an exile effect. And like you can't go 1-for-1 with your opponent. They also can't have Settle the Wreckage, right? Like there's so many things where it's just conditional. So.
I think you got me, and I think I love how Dan describes the card now. I'm gonna have to use it to all these cards that I think I suck. This card is like a mulligan. Well, actually, a mulligan does something. It changes. It potentially changes your hand to a better hand.
Yeah, I mean that's a good way of looking at basically any conditional card that like needs a specific game state to have any effect. It's like if this card is not actively, doing something to progress the game state or win the game, it is as good as a dead card. It is as good as mulligan.
I love it.
Boros Guildgate would be better in a lot of situations.
Derek sounded really hype about Pelt Collector, what Gabby Sparks ended up previewing, and it's a 1 green 1/1. Like Derek said, it's like experiment 1. Whenever it's an elf warrior, whenever another creature you control enters the battlefield or dies, if that creature's power is greater than Pelt Collector's, put a +1/+1 counter on Pelt Collector. As long as Pelt Collector has 3 or more +1/+1 counters on it, it has trample. Could see play in the mono green.
Yeah.
There's a lot of elves out there now in standard, and we even have that little elf lord that was sneaking in there, and you could play like unclaimed territory as well if there's like other colored elves, because you have Llanowar elf, the 3-drop's an elf, and there's the elf lord, and then that thing's an elf. So maybe there's some elf synergies, some tribal synergies there.
You might not even need elves. Like, are there any other good 1-drops in the format? Like, it seems to me like green has the 2 best 1-drops.
They do.
And like this it doesn't take a whole lot for a card like this to be good. This is it's like experiment 1 and Champion of the Parish had like a love child. It's like experiment 2. It seems really strong. There's not a whole lot of downside to this card. It just seems great.
I think it fits perfectly into the mono green shell, and it replaces a lot of the cards that are rotating out, like Heart of Kiran. If you want to play Galta in your deck and you want to curve out your opponent, you want to go 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop Galta, this card is very good for that. Not only does Galta
will probably add a counter.
Yeah. I hope Galta adds a counter. Maybe if it's like your second Galta for the day, or your 4th, maybe. Who knows? But if you go like this into Thorn Lieutenant, into Steel Leaf Champion, and they kill your Steel Leaf Champion, you now have a 4/4 on turn 1. That's probably already done 4 to 8 damage, and you still have a Thorn Lieutenant. And they're on the back foot. They only have so many removal spells. If they didn't have the Shock or the Lightning Strike earlier, how are they going to kill this card? It seems to me like it's going to be one of the best turn 1 plays, and if not, Llanowar Elf is going to be better.
But they could have the Justice Strike.
Oh no, I forgot about the Justice. Maybe you get hit by the bus.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
The bus comes in.
The bus comes in.
Is it a May? Do you have to put the counters on?
Yeah. It's like nothing is safe from the bus.
So one of the things I've been thinking about this new standard format is I've been trying to think of where Teferi is going to fit into all of this. So like the easiest color combination to play mana wise is Jeskai, because you get the 8 shocks and you have 12 buddy lands or whatever you want to call them. And all it needs is like some good reason to play red. And I'm not sure if there is one yet, because there is a good reason to play black in Vraska's Contempt. But the wonder is if the mana is going to be bad, because the mana is bad right now in Esper, and it doesn't really get much better.
Isn't
like
there
the shock is better than the cycle land, but it's not better than having the both cycle lands, right?
Isn't there the 3 mana Anger
deal
Beyond?
Deal 3 damage, or your creatures get lifelink, or both.
Whee! Yeah, there's that. I don't know. I think if you're playing Teferi, you want to be either straight blue-white or
Justice Strike is actually pretty good too.
what?
It probably kills everything.
Justice Strike is
Justice Strike, red, white, instant. Target creature deals damage to itself equal to its power.
oh, that card's actually
Piggybacking on my previous comment, if a card like Justice Strike is good, the format's going to change to adjust to it. You know, like you're going to start seeing, well, I mean, hexproof creatures or creatures with more toughness than they have power start to be adopted, just to make this card as awkward as possible. Justice Strike is unlikely to see significant adoption for the long term, I think. So I hesitate to want to lean on a card like that.
But Dan, the more toughness they get, the more likely they are to get hit by the bus.
beep beep. It's your stall.
You set me up. I should have saw that coming.
If you play Teferi, you can draw all these removal spells.
You can 1-2 them. Oh man.
You just have mana. You have the best planeswalker in the format. It's over.
So you can play the Deafening Clarion, the 3 damage spell, and the bus. Nothing will live.
Exactly. Except for Teferi.
You can't beat both.
Exactly. Unless you have, what's that card that we talked about that's really bad, but is really good in this specific situation?
We don't say it. Say Boros Guildgate instead.
Yeah, sometimes you have Boros Guildgate.
Can we put Boros Guildgate?
Extra tap land.
Chance for glory.
Yeah, Boros Guildgate's the only card that stops the bus. The bus can't get in the Guildgate.
Man, Derek, I really hope there's a deck that's playable with the bus, or else it's a huge shame.
Oh,
that,
I would, if I was allowed to bet on Tournament Magic, I would bet that there will be a bus somewhere in a blue-white 75 in the next 4 to 6 months, however long this format is.
you got to play it on stream.
It's very bold.
You just got to play this card on stream.
You think so?
Yeah.
No.
I think there will be one. I think there will be at least one in a 75.
This Fringe playable might get played once in the next 6 months.
Yeah.
Write it down. It's a called shot.
In a top 8 or an SCG top 8.
PPTQ top 8, PPTQ top 16.
Maybe it'll top 8 a limited Grand Prix. You don't know. Listen, the card's fine. It's fine. Right?
It seems pretty.
It's not good.
Pretty narrow.
It's no Fumigate, but like what is, right?
Now I don't know if I'm being trolled or not. Now I don't know what's playable, what is playable anymore.
I'll be here for you, Carl. I'll tell you when you're being trolled.
But man, I keep going back to this Aurelia card because it doesn't get hit by Justice Strike. It's so big. It's 4/5.
She's a big mama.
That is a lot of text.
And a lot of text and great stats for even without text, and then you add on the text, and it seems pretty sweet.
There's a lot of words.
Right, let's do one. Oh, okay. Let's do one last card, which is Ritual of Suit or Suit.
What the
Two
heck is that?
colorless.
Yeah, I don't know.
Two
what you're talking
colorless. Double black. Sorcery. Destroy all creatures with converted mana cost 3 or less.
Okay,
That's the
okay.
black wrath. Sort of.
It doesn't kill Vine Mare.
about. It's the sorcery speed, consume the meek. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. That card is worse than the bus.
Yeah.
Is it worse than
I
the
think
bus
so.
is pretty bad. The bus is pretty bad. This one can. I don't know, kid.
To me, like if you're wrathing cards with 3 or less converted mana cost on turn 4, you're probably already losing the game. Like Yeheni's expertise wasn't backbreaking in last standard, and it allowed you to play another free spell afterwards.
Okay, you got me there.
To me, like this card just isn't good enough. To me, like I think you want to be killing Phoenixes, and Vraska's Contempt already takes that slot. Or Tajik, like it kills Tajik, but it doesn't kill Aurelia. So I don't know. It doesn't look good enough to me.
So more in the next 6 months, more copies of the bus than this card.
Yes.
I think if a card like this is going to see play, it needs to be a really hyper aggressive format that doesn't cap out at 4 or 5 mana. That's such an obvious statement, but like there are so many colors of mana to play with. There are so many powerful cards higher up in the curve that are being printed in this set. I don't see this being good enough. I don't think it's going to answer the threats that are going to be really powerful in standard.
I would like to defer back to Dan's statement earlier that if this card is powerful, then the format will automatically adjust.
Yeah.
In such that if there's a hyper green deck, then they will just side into more of a mid-rangey strategy with Vine Mares and cards like Vivian Reed and cut all the lower costs other than like maybe a Llanowar else. And if there's like an aggressive Goblin deck, then they'll just go big red if they can and try to blank this card as much as possible. And so I think like this is just another niche best case scenario card.
I mean, it's a sideboard card. I can't imagine a universe where this is going to be played in the main deck. And if it is, it's a product of what the format is, and that would be hyper aggressive. This strikes me as, honestly, I don't know if it's better or worse than something like Yeheni's expertise. It basically does the same thing, but maybe allows you as the black-based control deck to have larger threats that don't get shrunk down. If it's really important to you to keep something on the board, I could see you wanting a wrath like this. But again, I think it's entirely contextual on what the format might look like, and I just don't see this being good enough. Maybe as a sideboard card, but that means that things are weird.
Yeah, I think if the green deck really takes over like 30 or 40% of the meta, this black card will be good because it kills Steel Leaf and the Pelt Collector. But like,
there's just not enough text on the card. Look at Pelt Collector. Look at Nullhide Ferox. Look at Aurelia. They all have like 50 words. There's like 7 on this one. How many words is that?
Wizards really had to hit that word count on the Ferox.
What's gonna make a little kid want to play this game? It's like, no. Just give me 3 threes. Where's the vanilla 3 threes?
Just not enough words, man.
Well, if anyone has in chat or mostly our listeners, definitely hit us up on the comment section if you want us to analyze any cards or any potential decks for the next episodes. We'll move on to something controversial, mainly just to pick Derek's brain on the situation because it's sort of his friend, right, Derek? Last week Matthew Folks announced that on Twitter that he had been suspended for 18 months by the DCI for attempting to steal a Flooded Strand promo. On Twitterverse, I think the initial reaction was, wow, 18 months is really, really harsh for what he did, trying to steal Flood Strand. Whereas, a lot of people are like, hey, maybe this is great. Maybe they should start cracking down and giving harsher penalties for something like that. And that indicates that maybe they'll be harsher on things like cheating. So a minority of people that I've heard have come with this viewpoint. So I think that is a valid point as well. And just wanted your take, Derek, on this situation.
Yeah, so this might take a minute for me to explain everything, because I thought about this a lot, because it was brought up to me, like we brought it up a couple weeks ago on the cast, and Andy asked me specifically if I felt like if he didn't get caught, would he try it again? And I said maybe, or like would he brag about it? I said maybe. From what he said on Twitter was that it was sort of like a whim of the moment thing. Like I went up to hand in my deck list. They asked me if I had one. I said no. It's lying to a judge, and I was trying to steal a promo. I read a Reddit thread, a very long Reddit thread. Took me some digging, saying that he was purposely trying to go from judge to judge, trying to convince them that he hadn't gotten a bag yet, and that he was owed another flooded strand, and he had done it multiple times. And he ended up going to a judge, and they asked him about his bag. He said it was from Welsh nationals, and then when they investigated more, they found a specific English nationals flyer in the bag, disqualified him from the event, filled out the disqualification form, and a couple weeks later he got an 18-month ban. I've also been told by a very trustworthy source that a judge has said that normally lying to a judge is only a 6-month ban. That's the baseline. If you get banned for lying to a judge, not everybody gets banned for lying to a judge. And so 18 months is a lot. It's a very long time. To me, if it was just for the flooded strand thing, I would say it's too long. 6 months would have been fine. 12 months might even been too long. To me, like, I think there's some more information that we're not all getting properly. And I think that if you could prove that he deserves this, like, if deserving is the right word, he deserves this. And to me, like, he's not really a friend anymore. I think that this is the sort of thing that is like the line. It's like cheating at an event, or it's whatever, right? Like, I don't know. It was a lot for me to process. I had to think about it a lot. I had to really, really think about it. And I thought to myself, if I heard of some random that did that at a random event, would I treat them nicely? And no. Like, I'm not going to be nice to Bergaccini if I ever talk to him in public. I hope he listens to this. Or, like, I might not be nice to Jared Betcher. Even though, like, I had a conversation with him before he was banned and we were friendly, right? Like, I don't think these sort of things are excusable. I don't think the way that he apologized was acceptable. I don't think him not making a real big statement about it is acceptable. And, yeah. I know Andy said he had some comments on it also.
Yeah, so you've shed light on this that I did not know. So originally when I saw this, I said I felt like if I was in charge, I would ban him for 6 months. But I would much rather than ban him for 18 months than not ban him at all. So I was like, okay, whatever, this is a fine decision. But if what you're saying is true, is that he's like actively going judge to judge.
That's for the record, that's how I interpreted the Reddit post.
If that's true, you could get him out of here forever for all I care. I'll be fine if he never comes back. That kind of stuff, I'm fine if you're banned forever. That's so similar to just cheating to me, like stealing money from people. You're stealing money from the tournament, and it wasn't just an opportunistic thing that maybe you had a bit of weakness. You went and sought it out. That changes it completely to me.
Yeah, so do I understand that correctly, that he was going to each judge in the tournament hall asking for a flooded strand for compensation?
That's how I read the Reddit post. Like, everybody, I tried posting it in the chat, and I posted in our personal chat. I read through the entire thing, and there was one individual who said he went to a couple different judges, and then eventually ended up talking to the tournament organizer, and that's what I read. That's at least how I interpreted it. I could have misread it. I could have misunderstood what its circumstance was being explained, but it seemed to me it wasn't just like I forgot to hand in my deck list. I also didn't get a bag thing, like as it was originally read into. It's also on Reddit, right? Like, I'm a huge believer of don't believe everything you read on the internet, but for them to give him an 18-month ban, I think sort of proves it if you believe it, right?
Yeah, I understand it. I understood it to be what Andy thought it was, that it was just like a one-time, like, yeah, you're right, no, I didn't get it sort of thing. Not to condone it at all. I think it's, despicable. But I hadn't read really anything, so I'm shocked to hear, I guess, this update, this new news. That's pretty crazy.
And,
that's wild.
I think a lot of people hadn't read it. I've been streaming, and somebody posted it in my chat, or somebody mentioned it in chat and said that he had not given all possible information, or it happened like a couple days after he had admitted to it. And I think that's why like not a lot of people know about this Reddit thread, just because it's not being talked about. And there's a lot of people that are defending what he did, and I don't think that's okay either. I think if you're okay with this sort of like complacent theft or whatever you want to call it, like it's not okay. Like some people are like, oh, they make a lot of money, or oh, like the tournament organizers are making money hand over fist. Like, no, like theft is theft, even if he wasn't actively seeking it out. And if you allow those people around you, they'll take from you also. I remember when people were talking about Betcher, cheating, and people were like, oh, well, like he's probably just getting the bad end of things. Or, like, people are just making it up. He said he wasn't doing it, and then they proved it. And then like people are saying the same thing with Bertoncini, like coming out now. Like when I was friends with Bertoncini, I believed that he wasn't stealing, or I believed that he wasn't cheating. And then he got caught and lied to my face about it. I think it's the exact same thing. I think like you just have to identify that. Don't stand for it, sort of thing.
So is he still actively streaming, Derek?
Not Magic that I know of. He streamed some blackjack game, and I don't know. If you know anything about Matt, he's kind of just crazy off the rails, so I don't know what's going on with him. I don't know. I haven't really talked to him about it. Haven't really talked to anybody who's talking to him about it. I also don't know if everybody knows about the Reddit thread. So, yeah.
I've heard about that. I didn't read the Reddit thread, but other people have told me that version of the story. So they must have read it like the exact way that you interpreted it. So, and according to this, go ahead, Dan. Or
that was me. There's a lot of different people in that Reddit thread saying, "Yep, this is exactly how it happened." He went and sought out the promos.
Derek, one last word.
Yeah, I just wanted to. That's what I want. Like the reason I said that's the way I interpret it, because I didn't want to. I want people to read this thread. I want everybody to understand exactly what was said in the thread and not take it secondhand from me, because like I don't want it to be muddled, right? I don't want it to be skewed through my mouth. I just want everybody to have the information firsthand from the Reddit thread, more to protect myself than anything, but also so you get more information.
Maybe a final thought would be, bye, Matt. Bye. Bye.
His reaction, his ultimate reaction to the ban is similar to Travis Wu for me. It's like, oh well, I was gonna quit Magic anyways, so this makes it easier, I guess, type of reaction.
So stupid.
Good to get your thoughts, Derek, because you were, like I said, sort of close to him, like a friend at one point. So
yeah, and I want to say like it sucks. It sucks a lot because I thought we were friends, and I don't know if anybody I know personally will ever steal or cheat, but it sucks when somebody does something awful and you're like, man, like now I gotta not be friends with you, right? Like, it's like morally, like, I don't know. It's awful. It's terrible.
Yeah, your friend lied to you. Your friend
Yeah.
lied to you and stole from the hobby that probably matters the most to you.
Yeah, and we're trying to build a community here, and we're trying to make people better at Magic, and we're trying to show people that like Magic is a good thing. And when you're put in a social area for Magic and you do something bad like this, there's obviously repercussions for your actions. And like, I was thinking, like, if he wasn't a streamer, if he wasn't a big personality, would he have gone 18 months? Or would have he made a half-assed apology? Or would he got dragged by Cedric that way? And I think no, I think it might have gone a bit more under the radar. I think a lot of this sort of thing does go under the radar normally because people aren't big names like this. And that's why I think reporting this sort of thing, whether it be cheating, stealing, or just general misconduct, is also very important. So the judges and the DCI in power can do stuff about it, right?
Right on. Right on. Oh, that was nice. Again, appreciate all your thoughts, and of course, I always appreciate Andy being very passionate on these controversial, sensitive topics for some. So great to have you guys on for this. Man, what did I have in mind for the next topic? Lost my train of thought.
Are we going to talk about GP Montreal?
That's still in a while, right? That's still in 3...
Like two weeks this Friday.
October. Yeah. Okay.
Is can I not do time right either? Can't count. Can't do calendar.
No.
It's close to it's coming up.
Yeah.
That's like 2 or 3 weeks, right? I'm really excited. I love Montreal. Maybe if I'm lucky, we'll get some time to go to Schwartz. If
Le Banquise.
Yeah.
The ultimate poutine place in well, at least I haven't been to every one of them, but it's definitely a highlight for me if you're down with that stuff. Dan, are you still? I was going to cover this topic at some point near the end, but while I think about what I wanted to talk about, Dan, you've been keeping track with Hearthstone? Apparently, there was some big news today announcement. Have you read about it to get your 2 cents on it?
No, what the heck are you talking about?
There were people tweeting about it. They made announcements about the state of like their current state and what they're going to do. Now they're not going to have like the tournament. I forget, but I was hoping that you'd be on the pulse.
No, man, you caught me off guard.
You didn't do your research, Dan.
Yeah, I wish you told me ahead of time. This wasn't in the contract, Karyan.
All right, while you look that up, I'm going to say, to support the show, if you enjoyed the show so far, enjoyed any of our episodes, you can support the show by going to patreon.com/firststrike. And man, there was something else. I'm going to need some time to think about this. Or not. We're going to... Man, it escaped my mind. I got consumed by the Matthew Folk stuff that I can't even think about the next thing. I guess I'll come into play. Andy, like what's on your radar? What's coming up next for you? Just GP Montreal? Are you coming down for that?
Yeah, I'm coming down to GP Montreal because my good friend and previous guest host, Elliot Fortier, lives there. And I will be snoring up in his place, sleeping there, and hopefully he'll make sure I get to the event on time. No, I look forward to that. Some limited will be a nice change of pace. I really, really love like high-level limited play. And it's some of the most fun you could possibly have. So I just pray that I do well enough to get me to a draft portion where I feel like I can really have a pretty reasonable advantage, because I know a lot of some of the people I consider some of the best limited minds, and I want to do well. And I love Montreal. Limited's fun. And I don't have to worry about a constructed format, which will be nice for a change because I'm a little bitter about constructed as of late.
And Derek, nothing for you outside of the GP, right?
I don't think so. I hope not. I'm not prepared for anything. I don't even know if I'm prepared for Montreal.
Now I remember, Dan. You can keep reading because I want to get your honest, like comprehensive breakdown. So I got the topic that I just wanted to sort of bring into view. What's interesting, again, more controversy, which came from the Hall of Fame vote, but just an angle that I didn't think about previously. We had Sam Black on his podcast with PV and Sigris. Escapes my mind what the podcast is called, like Pro Points Show or something.
Points.
Yep.
Pro Points, where he basically accused Brad of stalling, and it's one of those things where I think like sometimes when you do a podcast, you're just not, I guess like oftentimes we're not afraid of saying certain things because you really don't know who's going to watch or listen. But in their case, it's, I don't know if that happened where it's really easy to be comfortable like now in this moment when you think maybe that person that you're talking about isn't listening. But Sam Black ended up accusing Brad of stalling in I believe their world championship match that cost Sam a. Later on, after like the backlash, Twitter or Brad Nelson replying, like Sam made like a sort of not. It was a weird tweet where he sort of said that, okay, I do not think Brad is a cheater, but he didn't really directly reply or take back what he said. Like he didn't say like he was not trying to stall him out and stuff like that. And I think
he did KYT. Sorry to interrupt, but he did take it back.
Okay. But it also felt like, I don't know from your perspective, Andy, it just felt like he had to do it due to backlash. And now that I think about it, it's hard to call out cheaters because of all the financial ramifications it can have, because someone who has, who's hired by SCG or CFB, if you start like, lashing out at them, and costing them their gig, that's a huge financial thing. And it's also one of those situations, it is tough to call out someone that is publicly adored. So like imagine if you, Andy, like you start accusing LSV of cheating on Twitter, like no one's ever going to believe you, right? Like everyone, and all that's going to cause is you to be made fun of, to be cast out, while it's easier to lash out at people that don't have the same amount of support in certain places. Like it's easy for us to like tweet out, hey, I think Li Shiqian is a huge ass cheater. Like no one's, you're not going to receive as much backlash as you would have come out of and accusing LSV. So I think all of this is interesting. Like a lot of it and a lot of financial stuff may be at stake when it comes to the upcoming Pro Tour Team Series. Because I know like us, we came out early. We got Shaheen and Edgar. That was done behind the scenes. I was not aware of that because that's not my job. But we had gotten those teams. But I know there are other teams, and if they approach a sponsor with an alleged cheater, are they going to be less interested? So there's so much impact that it actually discourages people from calling out each other. And I don't know. I didn't really have a point, but I just thought like this whole financial side of it is something that maybe people don't think about. What do you think about all that thing I just said, Andy?
Well, so I like how you started asking the question to Dan and it ends being asked to me. But so with all the things you said, so a lot of the time you're talking about people who are adored and how sometimes it's harder to talk about accusations of them cheating. But you do have to take into consideration that part of the reason they're adored is likely due to the fact that they're part of like the pro community and they're liked among that community, which usually means that they're known as a clean player. There's obviously different sort of like biases, like regional biases that also play into this pretty big. But I think like a player like Brad Nelson, he's like been pretty clean from what I see almost the whole time. And then when you watch the video that Sam Black was talking about, it didn't look that bad to me. And then Sam Black, basically what it seemed like is that he was upset with what happened and he he was sort of cheated out of a match. But in the end, it seems like he came to the realization that he felt more cheated by the rules of like the turn system in the last 5 turns of a game of Magic than necessarily Brad doing anything illegal or shady. And that's kind of what he ended up saying after, like, strongly accusing Brad of that. He kind of backpedaled, maybe thought about it a little bit more, because sometimes on a podcast you're just saying what you feel in the moment. You don't think about the ramifications, and you might just say something that, even though he felt cheated and Brad was his opponent, so maybe he just associated that to that, but then later upon reflection realizes that he was just upset about the fact that because time was called, Brad thought for a second and then thought about playing something on the end step, which then he did, I believe. And then all of a sudden Sam was turn 0, Brad was turn 1. So that actually mattered a lot. But then Sam ended up saying that he was upset about the rules. So with that situation. But with the financial thing, yeah, there is a ramifications there, because like you might get put on a team with this, or like let's say I accuse Brad Nelson of cheating. Sponsor Coca-Cola wants to sponsor Brad Nelson. They pull up Brad Nelson's Twitter. They see, oh, someone accused him of cheating. Like just by looking through his Twitter feed, not very long, they don't have any idea about Magic, right? Some of these sponsors might not. And they look at this and like, well, I'll pass on that guy. I might as well just go for someone else. There's a million of these pros. So they could just go on to someone else. So there is some financial ramifications, I think, with some of the sponsors that might not know as much about the game. But hopefully that kind of stuff gets weeded out when they do real research and don't just kind of face value scroll a Twitter. But
All right. Dan, do you have the Hearthstone report ready for us?
I do, yeah. I mean, granted, I've had all of 2 minutes to look over it, but this seems like an awesome update. This is the sort of thing that I wish Wizards would take part in. Do something like this, give us sort of like a State of the Union address. Like, this is where we're at. This is what we want to do. This is how we feel about this format. This is how we feel about this card. This is how we feel about future banned and restricted updates. And they're actually petitioning for feedback, for comments. They're not they're not being silent. They're not keeping all their discussions behind closed doors. They're opening it up to the public and getting a pulse for what's going on. So for anyone who hasn't seen it, they announced a few game updates and just sort of told everyone where their head is at in terms of balance for Wild and whatnot. It looks like they speak to what they see in terms of popular archetypes for the standard format, the health of those. They speak about cards that are perhaps performing better than they had intended, but commenting on where they feel the power level of those cards are in respect to the rest of the format, and explaining their justification for it. They're talking about future possibilities for balance updates to the Wild format. They're talking about their plans to release new cards that are going to be essentially evergreen for the standard format, cards that are going into the classic set, which is something they've never done. And they're talking about adding new ranks to improve the player experience for newer players joining the platform. So this all seems like awesome stuff to post about, just sort of get a pulse from the community. I'm surprised I didn't see this before, but I'm happy that I'm seeing it now. I think this is really awesome. The transparency is really appreciated. I don't play Hearthstone competitively, but I do play it for fun. And I love that Blizzard is sort of taking it upon themselves to be this forward with their information. And I wish that an organization like WotC would maybe take notice and try to apply this to some of their communications in the future, because it has been something that they have struggled with in the past.
So I think the one negative thing that people were upset about, I guess, the competitive side, was that. So I'm just going to quickly read this. I think they're talking about this specific section. Earlier this year, we talked about adding a new feature to Hearthstone that would make it easier to organize tournaments for fireside gatherings and private events. Team has been working on this feature for some time. It was originally slated to arrive this year. Unfortunately, in-game tournaments are now on hold, so we want to take this opportunity to explain why, and I guess they don't want to do this anytime soon. Is that what you?
Yeah, so I mean, like I did see this part. I skimmed it just as I did everything else. I think the transparency is amazing. Like I wish that they would. I wish the WotC, for example, would sort of explain where they're at with I think it's called Arena, their new Magic Online platform. I wish they would sort of explain where they're at with development, what's holding them up, where they think that the features are going to be, commercially available outside of the beta. Maybe share some of the feedback that they're getting from the people that are actually playing it. It's okay to feel disappointed and slighted that this tournament mode is not going to be released in the near future. But I think that anyone reading this should feel happy and confident that Blizzard has their best interests at heart, that they're even communicating that this isn't going to be available anytime soon, that this is something that they have acknowledged and want to bring to the platform, but it's going to take some time. I work for a tech company. I understand that, different things that are in development sometimes go through periods of great when things are moving ahead of schedule and things are going well, and when setbacks come in and things need to be reeled back and scaled back just to accommodate for whatever the hell went on in the background. And again, the fact that they're being this transparent about where they're at with this feature really speaks great volumes to just the amazing team that they have. I think this is a good thing. It sucks that it's not going to be available tomorrow, but they've acknowledged that they want to bring it to the platform, and I think we should all be happy about that.
So someone by the name, maybe you guys know about Frodan, who's in esports, Twitch esports program manager, says, as the game Hearthstone is at an awkward puberty phase, player base is growing up. Hearthstone lacks meaningful progression for seasoned veterans. Hit legend, get golden heroes, and get card backs. And you're pretty much done. Next logical step is taking Hearthstone more seriously, aka competitive outlets. Competitive outlets know how to be large esports stages or events. Right now, there's a huge chasm between tournament player and ladder player. What do you do if you wish to dive in beyond just hitting legend? Dish out cash to travel? That's where tournament mode plugs the gap. So he's won that tournament mode now, and you're not going to have, I guess, that outlet in Hearthstone yet, as you have in the PPTQ system and PTQ system within MTGO and stuff like that. But that said, I guess it's going to come, and that's going to be a huge thing once it does come for people who are hyper competitive about Hearthstone.
We live in an awkward time in the world where it's so easy to get instant gratification for just about anything that you're passionate with. I think people forget that sometimes things are a process and things take time, and this is a good change for Hearthstone. Like, this is going to be a great thing for the future of the game, and it's going to take time for them to do it right. I'd rather them take the time to really think out the just the nuances of bringing something like this to the platform, and I'd rather them release something good rather than half-baked, and the fact that they're taking the time to take a step back and assess where they're at, and really put the proper resources into this to make it a thing in the future. Just again, it's only a positive thing. Good things take time.
I thought it would be pretty cool to bring this up just because it's one of Magic's competitors, but it's always great to see what other people are doing on the show, whether it be Hearthstone, whether it be Shadowverse with Jerry, or any other similar card games, or Eternal, or any of these things. I know there's stuff like Epic, all these other things coming out. There's Richard Garfield's Artifact. People are even tweeting at me how they want to start their own strategy site or content site for Artifact, and wanted advice from me on how I started up, my own site. So we're seeing all these other games pick up. So, any last words from you, Dan, as we wrap up? All right. And that's a mulligan. No, let's have a mulligan. How's it going, Dan?
Things are well. My headphones are dying right now, so the faster we get me off speaker, the better.
All right. I know you're a huge NHL fan, but have you ever dived into fantasy leagues?
Never. No, I'm not much of a gambler or a gamer in that sense. I like to I don't know. I like to control my variance by playing strategy games rather than you know.
So I just
I don't know. I don't have a good answer to that.
I just imagine you. I don't know. You never. Now that I know that you probably never play, so there's just a funny image of like imagining you yelling in like Pittsburgh, yelling at one of the players, "Do something!"
Oh, it happens, regardless of gaming or gambling or not. Like, believe me, it happens.
Any last words from you guys, Derek?
None really. I'm excited for Montreal. If you're coming to Montreal, come say hi. I'm gonna win the event, so see you there.
All right.
Ooh, strong words.
Eddie?
Enjoy the yard, Matt folks.
Oh, damn. And for everyone else, you can pre-order your playset of Citywide Buzz on facefacagames.com. Definitely do that. And if you guys ever get them altered with buses on it, definitely tweet at us. Send us pictures because that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
For Andy, Dan, Derek, and I, we'll see you next week and at GP Montreal, hopefully. So thank you for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe, give us a thumbs up, or to subscribe to our iTunes or podcast feed. We'll talk to you next time.